Hi, this is Dan with True North Motos. Today we're going to go over the installation of the 2020 Husqvarna XABR rack system. Coming over to see what hardware will come in your kit. You got your top plate, rubber damper will already be installed. This is going to be the left side forward subframe mount and spacer. This is going to be the rear mount and spacer bolt. And this is going to be the right side. This will take place of the rear brake pivot, and this will take place of the lower master cylinder bolt. These are going to be your top plate nuts and bolts. Tools required to do this installation: 5mm Allen, 6mm Allen, 13mm socket, 15mm socket, ratchet, extension, and a 13mm wrench. You're going to have to start by removing the side panels on both sides in your seat. You're also going to need to trim the right frame guard. Best way to get a line for this is put the right side rack up and use a Sharpie or whatever you want to put a mark around. And then I use a portable bandsaw on a table to cut this out, but shears, anything else that you want to use to cut that out, whatever works. On top of the bike right here, you will need to unclip the wiring from the wiring secure right here. And then on the seat, you'll need to remove the rubber damper that's in your seat right here. So, I like to start with the right side rack on this bike. I've already removed the rear brake pedal bolt and the rear master cylinder lower bolt. You have your right side rack. And what you need to do is sneak this up underneath the wiring, over your frame, and down. Grab the left side of the rack. So this spacer, if you want to come to the other side, I can show you this. Sits in this recess right there. I'm going to put the rack down over it, like so. Now, I should have already done this already, but you're going to want to Loctite this bolt. You can see this sits right inside of this groove right here. You can get that through like that. You'll take your 6mm Allen. Oh, I lied. It's the wrong size. It's a 5mm. We'll thread this in. So you're going to want to leave it loose till you get the other bolt started. So these are going to be your right side bolts. Loctite on each one. Grab 15. Excuse me, you also need an 8mm. Forgot to mention that. So through. You'll reuse the stock nut off of your rear brake pivot. What you want to do on these racks when you install them is you want to make sure that everything is loose. We got the lower bolt in and the nut started. It's still loose. We'll start this bolt. We'll also leave this one loose. Now move to the other side. A little bit Loctite. The reason on these racks that you want to leave everything loose, these are a modular rack system. So you get everything started, and then you go through and make sure it's all aligned, and then you finish tighten everything up. So on this side, we're going to put our spacer right in here, like so. Get it started. Now we're going to do our top plate. Okay, grab the nuts. Okay, so now we're going to throw the side panel on. These come up from the bottom. Clip in. These are kind of a pain. Sometimes you got to use a flat head to get this part. Get your little clip down. Back in. There you go. Okay, now we're going to put the seat on. So because this rack has to come over and cradle the top of the subframe to get into the structural point, you have to pull that rubber bumper out of your seat right here. It's also a good idea just to shave a tiny bit out of this. You don't want to take all these ribs because you want your seat rigidity to stay, but just enough. You can see I kind of brought it down to the level where that imprint for the rubber is gone. So now that that is done, you can get enough clearance on your seat. Still gotta you'll get just enough. Get your bolt in. Take your trim cover. This is another one. We're using a little flathead screwdriver. Get your clip. Get it pressed in. And you're good to go. That is the 2020 Husqvarna XABR rack installation.